Hey guys, welcome to another video, and today we're going to be discussing the book How to Win Friends and Influence People. Okay, I just finished reading and I went over the topics that I found were most important, went over all of the notes that I had and chose the 7 topics that I think are really worth implementing in your life and taking a look at, basically. The reason I'm doing the video is because I truly do think that everyone should read this book. It's just, it's really a classic in human relations, and it's just so well written, But I know that some people don't have the time because they're busy with work, or perhaps they're busy with their personal life. So that's why I'm doing this video. This way they can still get the same value out of the book, and they don't actually have to spend the time reading it. So I'll leave a PDF in the first link of the description with the lessons that I'm going to talk about, if you want to print it out or something. So yeah. Okay guys, so let's start this. So the first lesson that I took away from the book was be a good listener, okay? Encourage others to talk about themselves. I've been guilty of this in the past, when you see a person who you haven't seen in a long time, and then you just talk and talk and talk about yourself, and it's almost like a monologue, and you don't really show any interest in the other person. So this book really opened my eyes up for that. Just try to be, when you're talking with people, make interesting questions that you think she would like to answer, okay? So for example, if that person is interested in, I don't know, astrology, ask them questions about that. Whatever it is, you get the point. But I feel like it's really, really important to stress this, because the power of listening emphasizes the importance of genuinely caring about others. I'm sure you've experienced this yourself when you're talking to someone, and when you feel like that person is really listening to you and is really understanding what you're saying, those are some of the best talks that you can have. So yeah, definitely a very important principle, and it's mentioned a lot of times in the book. So yeah, I definitely recommend you follow this principle. Okay, and so the second principle that we're going to talk about today is getting the other person to say yes, yes, right from the outset, okay? It's also known as the Socratic method. And when I read it in this book, I realized that I had experienced this before, meaning some people had used this when talking to me. I just hadn't really realized it yet. But the Socratic method basically says, when you're talking to someone and you want to convince them of a certain, whether it's an opinion or a point, you want to try to get that person to say yes by answering questions that they will agree with. Okay, so an example that was used in the book was a bank employee was actually signing a client, and the client just didn't want to share all of their private information. For example, their next of kin, where did he live, that's the type of private information you want to keep to yourself. So the employee actually used the Socratic method to go around this and to almost try to make the client understand why they need this information. And right from the outset, he tried to get as many yeses as he could. So he said, okay, let's say, for example, hypothetically, that you opened a bank account with us, but unfortunately you had an accident and you perished, okay? You would want your money to be transferred to your next of kin as quick as possible. Would you like that to happen? And he would say, yes, I agree. And you'd say, okay, so in order for that to happen, as fast as possible, we would need not only the contacts of your next of kin, we would need, his bank account. Do you think that would make sense? And the customer would say, yes, I believe that makes sense. And so just from that little conversation, he managed to get 2 yeses from the customer. And from that point on, I think it's pretty easy to try to guess where the conversation went, and the employee managed to get the information that he needed to fulfill the subscription of the client. That's just one of the examples of the Socratic method. I personally use it in my life. You know, I implemented it while I was reading this book, and I can definitely say that it's very useful when you're trying to make a point across the other person. But yeah, with that said, let's get into the next one. Okay, so let's get into the third, lesson that I took away from this book, and that is to give compliments to people. Okay, again, this is something that I didn't really do or realize before I read the book, but so many people out there are just starving for compliments, and I'll give you an example. You know, as I was reading this book, the author suggested that the next time you go eat out at a restaurant or, you know, whatever, you go up to the chef and you tell him that the food was amazing. And so I didn't really particularly go to any expensive restaurant, but I was at the cafeteria of my university, and you know, I gotta admit the food was pretty average, but nonetheless, I decided to go up to the chef and tell him that the food was very good, you know. So I did that. I got up and I went up to him and I asked, "Who cooked this meal?" And he almost, it was like he was scared. He was like, "I did. Why?" And you know, I just told him, you know, the food was amazing. I really, really enjoyed it. And his face just light up with the biggest smile, like you would not believe. And in that moment, you really, you know, it made me realize that man was probably working there for the past 10, 20, maybe even 30 years, and no one had ever given him a compliment, okay? He was just expected to show up every day and, you know, keep cooking for everyone, and almost like a cog in the everyday wheel. And you know, it really makes you look at things from the other point of view. It really did make me think about just the power of my words. You know, just the fact that I told him something, it made his day and made my day. So yeah, I think it's amazing. Compliments are, you know, they have to be genuine, but I do think that it's an amazing power that we have and that we should use more, especially me. I didn't really use it before, but I'm definitely going to be using it now. And yeah, I do recommend that you use it. With that said, let's get into the next point. Okay, so point number 4 that I took away from this book was to dramatize your ideas. What do I mean by this? The example they gave in the book was a salesman was trying to sell a certain service to, I think it was a grocery store owner. And you know, he was telling him how if he didn't implement this service, he was losing money every single day. And it was almost like the grocery store owner was just like, yeah, okay, go away, please. And so the salesman used this technique, you know, he dramatized his idea. How? He just, you know, grabbed a bunch of pennies from his pocket and just dropped it on the floor. And basically, you know, what he did was, look, you are losing money every single day without this service. And at the same time, he grabbed the pennies and dropped them in the floor. And I think that's just such a good visual representation of this bullet point, that is the power of dramatizing your ideas. Okay, sometimes words can really reach the other side, and dramatizing what you're saying, you know, may help get the point across to the other person. But yeah, I really did find this interesting, and I think this is actually one of the hardest things to implement in your life, at least from my experience. But yeah, I do think it's worth it, and I'm going to try to implement it in my life, and I do hope you try in yours. And with that, let's go into our 5th topic of the video, and that is try not to criticize people. So, you know, the book really specifies that criticizing is, it's dangerous because it wounds a person's feelings and pride, especially pride. The book really, really, freezes this. The pride of a person, it's just so important. And when you criticize someone, if someone does a job and you tell them, hey, what a shit job, this isn't good, like, what are you thinking about? It really leaves a person unmotivated, and the person's just not gonna want to improve after that type of commentary. So just try not to criticize people, and if you do criticize, be constructive about it. And the book really specifies what it is to be constructive. So, in order to be able to criticize well, don't start from the outset saying, hey, you did this wrong, you did this wrong. Start from, like, the points in which you have in common, okay? Imagine you have an employee and, he had to do a certain job, and you could just tell him, hey, Adam, I saw the job you did yesterday. I really enjoyed the first part. I think it's very well put together. And I think that if you could improve the second part, I'm sorry, and if you could improve the second part, it would be excellent, okay? It would really mean a lot to the company, and it would just make it that much better. I think Adam, that employee would be a lot more motivated than if I simply said, hey, I saw the report you did last night, and yeah, you gotta redo the last part, that's not up to our company standards, that's not what we want. So, you can criticize people, but just try to be soft, okay? Try to put it in a way that doesn't hurt the person's pride, and really makes them motivated to do the thing. Okay, guys, so we're getting closer to the end. Now I'm going to talk about the sixth point that I took away from this book, and that is, try to leave a trail of happiness in everyday life, okay? So I've already touched on this a while back, when I mentioned to go up to a chef and say that his food was amazing, or, when you leave the bus, just thank the bus driver. Little things like these, it's what oils the cogs of everyday life, and not only will you be happier, but everyone else around you will be happier, okay? Because when you give compliments to people, I mean, normally you're smiling when you give. I don't think anyone says, like, hey Adam, you did a great job, blah, 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 without smiling, So, first, if you're smiling, then you're happy, and if people hear you complimenting them and smiling at the same time, they'll smile back, and before you notice, everyone around you is smiling back, because you're just creating this positive energy around you. And yeah, I've definitely noticed a big difference in my life lately, when you start to implement giving compliments to people and just leaving a trail of happiness. And sometimes it just comes back at you, and you just straight up did not expect it, but that person that you were nice to 1 month ago, it just so happens that you actually needed this person now, today, and because you were so nice to them like a month ago, they were like, oh yeah, no, I remember him, yeah, sure, I'll help him. So it's always good to be nice to people, and I feel like leaving a trail of happiness, it really does make life easier, okay? I notice, especially in the morning, in the subway, it's like when I'm going to university, I get it, it's 8 a.m., it's cold, we're in the middle of winter, but every single person in the subway just has, like, this gloom face on, they're, like, looking at their screens, and they just look sad, and I get it, it's cold, again, they don't want to go to work, they would much rather be at home, but I just feel like if you're able to live your life with a smile on your face, everything is just so much easier, okay? And, if you have that choice, why wouldn't you take it? Why wouldn't you rather live life always smiling, always giving compliments to people. I'm not saying that you always have to be happy, but I do think it's an amazing initiative, and yeah, I think it's one of the main ideas that this book transmits to people. So yeah, I definitely had to point it out. And so with that, we have our last point, which is make the other person feel important. Okay, one of the examples that was in the book and that I absolutely loved was, a store manager. He needed an employee to um, start putting the price tags in the grocery store correctly because they were a mess, and some of them were wrong. And he basically had two approaches. He could say, like, he could call the person to the office and say, hey, from now on I need you to take care of the price tags because they're a mess right now, and yeah, they need to be right. Okay, so you're gonna have that responsibility, so deal with it. Instead of being rough and rude like that, he took a different approach. He made the person feel important. So here's what he did. He created a new position, okay, called manager of the price tags. I mean, the name just sounds like absolute bullshit, but it's in the book. So he created that position, and he called the person to his office, and he was like, hey, I don't know, I'll use Adam again. Hey Adam, congrats, you're being promoted to manager of the price tags, okay? So from now on, you have the responsibility to keep up with new products that come in and always have the price tags correctly placed. Don't you think Adam is going to be more motivated in this situation? Of course he is. Just the fact that the words promoted were mentioned, the word responsibility, it makes the person feel more important. And when you give people importance, they tend to not like to disappoint someone. Okay, another example that the book used was, if you want someone to do something, give them a good reputation. Okay, because people do not like to to, how do you say it, ruin the reputation. For example, imagine you had a friend who you wanted to do a certain thing. So, you'd go up to him and you'd basically say, hey man, what's up? I know you're such a good friend and you're always there for your buddies. So, I kind of need help with this project. Do you think you could help me? And, just that initial part, because you said, hey, I know you're a good friend and you always help your buddies, you built up a reputation, and now he's like, okay, well, so I got this reputation that I help my friends, that means that I'm gonna have to help him, And yeah, then again, it all comes down to the same point, which is make people feel important, whether that is by creating a position that just does not exist, or by giving them a reputation that they do not want to ruin. Those two topics, there's other ways, of course, you can make someone feel important, but I definitely think this is the most important topic, because I think it's the one that has the most versatility. You can use it in a bunch of different situations, and yeah, I do think it's very useful. Okay, so those were the 7 lessons that I took away from this book. Okay, I know that was a lot to take in just 10 minutes or so, but my personal recommendation is that you pick one lesson, the one that you think would impact your life the most, and just focus on that one. Work on that one for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and when you think you've really implemented that in your life, then you can switch to another lesson. Because if you just try to juggle all 7 of them at the same time, you're probably not going to be able to implement any of them. With that said, I'm gonna end the video, guys. I did actually create a PDF with all of these lessons because, if you want to remember them, or if you just want to print out the PDF and leave it at your bedside to check on it every single day, It's gonna be on the first link of the description, so you just have to go there, and you'll get the PDF in your email inbox. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope that, you know, you got to take away something from it. I truly hope that you're able to implement some part of, you know, even if it's just one lesson, even if you only implement one of the 7 lessons in your life, it's just going to make it that much better. Even me, obviously, I don't fully I'm not even near having all 7 of them implemented in my own life, but I'm working towards it, you know, every single day, and step by step eventually I'll get there. So with that said, guys, I'm gonna end the video. Thank you so much if you stuck till the end, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one.